Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're well. I can't believe we're on Wednesday already. The weeks are just flying by. And just for a change, it's raining outside. So perfect time to just create something for fun. So it's going to take me a bit longer because I've done no prep and we're just going to enjoy the process. I couldn't go outside to do some gardening and the garden really needs it. I've got so many things that are overgrown or need cutting back, but it's too wet. I just can't be bothered to go out in the rain. So being creative brings me just as much joy. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this bowl and I'm just going to draw around it so that it gives me the shape that I want. So I'm going to draw around that with a fine pencil line. So let's make it a little bit bigger. So almost all of the card. So let's just, so no fancy tools. You can draw around a saucer or anything like that. Because the circles, I haven't got many dies. I'm not really big on die cutting. I've got some circle dies that are years old, but they're too small. So I've created a bigger circle. Now this piece of card is 4 inches by 6 inches. It's Pink Frog Super Smooth Card 300 GSM. And I've just added a circle, not total circle, just coming off the edge. And I just want to have a play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, let me just grab this out. I'm going to use my seed pods first. And I think I'm going to use the little seed pod that's on its own. There we go. And the light always isn't as good at this time of year. So I'm going to take this little seed pod here, which is based on the Honesty seed pod, but this is slowly becoming a favourite stamp at the moment. So I'm going to use this seed pod and I'm going to use Strawberry Versifying Claire, one of the new colours. I've got this in the shop, but I love this new colour. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to colour the whole thing. Sorry, not colour. I'm not going to stamp the whole thing. All I want is sort of the shape. So I'm going to add this, just going around the shape. And I'm using the circle that I've drawn as sort of a guide. So I'm going to use this as a guide. So let's just, and you can see I'm just adding around the edges. So shall we have this one sort of coming this way, like so. And you could make this into a wreath. I'm a great believer in some tools you just don't need, they're not necessary, and a wreath is very easy to do. Let's just grab some wipes because there's a little bit of ink, or there seems to be, just on, don't know whether it's on my fingers, so let's just make sure. So let's take this again, and you can see I'm sort of just using the ink to apply sort of ink to the majority of it, but not all of it, if that makes sense. So I obviously want them coming different ways as well. So let's have that one that way, like so. And you can see that I'm not totally inking the image, because then I can add some pencil detail should I wish. So let's add this one here. So it means I can just add some pencil shading as well. So let's just, and you can just add a tiny bit of the ink if you wish. It's entirely up to you. And we just want to hide that little bit of inky smudge. There we go. And then let's take this again. So I'm just making this up as I go along, mainly because I like doing that sometimes and not putting too much pressure on myself. So let's have another one there. You can use some of the smaller seed pods if you wish, but I'm just using this one at the moment. So let's place that one sort of there, like so. So I've sort of got my shape. So let's add a little bit more, and you don't have to ink the stem if you don't wish. You can just ink the top part. So I can add this top part sort of coming here. So you don't have to ink the whole thing. Where's did I put the I can also, so let's take the ink off the stem there. Let's just grab a little bit of kitchen roll. Then we can ink this again. And then I can add, or do I add the fern there? Do you like how I can't make my mind up? Because it really doesn't matter if they cross over. It's not a problem, and it won't be even more so when we start adding colour to our design. So don't worry about that. So I'm just adding it to the circular bit. There we go, and that's it for now. So I'll just clean that red off should I want to go and use it again on a different colour. I'm then going to take the fern stamp, which I thought I'd got out, but obviously I haven't. So this is TE3. So let's grab another little A7 block. And when you're doing things like this, just have your smaller blocks ready. So I'm going to take the smaller fern from TE3. And I want a piece of scrap card. So let's grab some scrap card. And I want my morning mist. So I'll take the morning mist and I'm going to stamp and just see what the second generation and see if the third yes, so it works quite nicely. So we'll just ink that up again with the morning mist. We will blot, and then we're going to add some of the stamping. Just do I want to add it now, or actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some scrap paper. And we'll just create a little mask of our piece. So we'll just create a little mask of our, what's this called? Seed pod. So we'll just create a little mask of this. It doesn't matter about the stem, just the little piece itself. We're just going to create this tiny mask. Just cut around that. There we go. So I'm just going to create this mask. It doesn't matter about the point. It does help if you put it the right way. There we go. So we're going to take the morning mist, and what you need to remember is we're just spending time together and having a little play. So we'll take the fern, we will blot, and then we can add some of the fern, first generation. Let's see if we can add the second generation. Second generation just works really nicely. First and second generation prints, and sort of don't go round in a circle, so that don't do it logically. So don't go round, done that one, then that one, because if you don't do it logically, you'll have sort of a more natural feel to it. If you go round one by one like that, you automatically do things all the same way, and you don't want to do that. You want to move things around so that it looks more natural. Now you can use a piece of low tack tape if you wish, just to so that this sticks. So you can quite easily do that so that that sticks. I'm just going to keep doing this, it's fine. So let's do this one, like so, and then take the fern again. And I think it's like any project, when you first start, if you don't know where you're going, you do have to sort of trust in the process. And by doing this and working not regimented and going round, you do get sort of a more natural feel. And don't worry if you sort of, if your fern isn't perfect, because you want it to look more natural, you know. So you want some darker stampings, you want some lighter stampings, etc. So don't be too hard on yourself, you know, if it's not looking how you want it to initially. It's not looking, you know, perfection, because it takes time to develop. Like anything, it takes time to develop. So we're using the grey because it doesn't detract too much from the red. It's just nice and soft. So let's go back here. And just, now if you put a little bit of tape on this, so what I mean is, let's grab, just so that you know, I keep saying, and so you could take, let's take a little bit of the low tack tape. So a little strip of the low tack. I have to turn these over. I don't like it if I lose the end to something. I'm dreadful. So you can use a small piece of the low tack tape. I've now got itchy eyes. Oh, I've rolled it over, she says. There we go. Add that little bit of low tack tape just on the back, like so. And now you can lift it up and move it and stick it down quite easily. Then you won't have as much movement and it won't frustrate you as much. So let's just press there and then here. Really, the second and third generations are what are going to make it look more natural. So now I can pick this up. It's still got the stickiness on. Well, I was going to say it's still got the stickiness on. There we go. Which one now? So by doing it sort of randomly, which way did that go? Just remembering which way everyone went. There we go. By doing it sort of like this, you're making it more random. So first generation, and you can see I'm stamping with that second, third generation. I'm not making anything too dark. And it's hilarious because my low tack tape just sticks on the page. A little bit here. And the idea is that when we have a little bit of time together, you know, it might be raining outside, you might be watching this when you've come back from work. The idea is that it's just our creative time together. So that one is so pale now, I'll be able to stamp that. There we go. Because I'm going to colour in these red seed pods. So let's take, I cannot pick that up. There we go. So we're going to add some down here as well. Again, if you want the darkish grey, you want it darker, you can make that darker still. And make sure that you've got things going in different positions. And it doesn't matter if they overlap, especially when you've got the third and fourth generation, because you want it to look quite natural. Move that here. That's it. So we've blotted that, and let's have it sort of coming across here. I don't sort of think about it too much. Third, fourth generation. It's up to you how many generations you want to stamp on there. Just make sure your acrylic block is clean, because when you're stamping a small stamp, it's so easy to touch the edges of your acrylic block. And when I'm doing these kind of videos, the idea is I'm not rushing. We do short videos, we do videos that are half an hour long, we do a whole mix of videos, but these videos, I like to have a play to get back to my roots, where I love just doing things off the cuff, seeing how they go, and not worrying too much about time scales and what I should and shouldn't be doing. So I'm even going to sort of 5th generation printing now, 6th generation, just adding in the little gaps. And I'm going to keep that on that acrylic block as well, just in case I want it again. Now, where's the other one I want? I have to remember the stamp sets they're on, which you'd think I would remember off by heart, but trust me, no, not every time I don't. Right, where are you? Where's my other? This is what comes when you have too many stamp sets out in one go. I think it's the moth one now. Is it the moth one? Hey, yes, I remembered. So on the insect one, I've got this little leaf here. I'm going to use that one on the little moth. Try and leave my plastic inside the packaging so that I'm not hunting for that, because I can spend more time hunting for that than anything else. So there's a little leaf on the moth. We'll add that. Now I'm going to add this with the 1st generation. So I'm going to add 1st generation. Now the 1st generation means that it's going to come uppermost into the card. So I'm adding this uppermost. And again, I'm not going to go, oh, I've done that one, let's go that one. I'm not doing that, because it just stops you from being natural and not thinking about it too much. These little leaves are delightful on the insect one. So I can stamp this straight over the top now of those ferns. Just works beautifully, unlike my low tack tape. Right, let's have this one. And doing it in a different sort of order each time. And inking it again, because I can't remember whether I inked the leaf. If you want to add a little bit of second generation, you can. But the idea of this one is that this is uppermost on our design. And it means I can overstamp on top of the fern. Right, which way are you? I think we will go this one. So you can see, by not doing it in too much of a regimented way, you know, going one at a time, it just makes it more natural. And moving your stamp around as well, just to make that more natural. So, which one am I going to do now? Let's do this one up here. And you sort of lose yourself in the process of just creating. And don't forget, we've got to add some depth to our seed pods, which we will do. So let's just add, oh, I love this leaf. You could do a wreath as well, because this isn't a wreath, this is just a design going round, but you could do a wreath with this little leaf quite easily. Now, say you're using a little stamp and you're finding that you're getting a little bit of rocking. If that's happening, don't worry. Place your stamp on like I have here and place another stamp, another small stamp at the bottom. And it just stops any rocking, should you be getting that, if you're getting some rocking. Because, you know, some of us might have dexterity problems. We have to remember this. So if you're getting a little bit of rocking, just add another stamp to the bottom of your acrylic block. And move that stamp around just so that you get a different feel. There we go, let's add that there, that's it. And then we'll add a little bit of colour to our seed pods, just a little bit more. Let's add a little bit of a leaf going here. And I think we'll just add a little bit there. There we go. And we can keep adding as much as we want when we've done a little bit of colouring. Now this is where Tracy really loses herself when she does the colouring. So let's put our lid on. I can't pick my little mask up. Just place that on there. You do realise I'll lose that mask because that's me all over. Right. So we want some sort of reds, don't we? So let's have a test. That's a nice red. I'm not even looking at the colours yet. I'll look at them afterwards to see what colour. I want a dark edge, but that's got too much of a pinky tone. I really don't want that. That's a bit darker, yeah. And then we've got anything sort of darker still. Maybe a really deep black grape, yeah. So what I've done then, I've got my pencils, I'll tell you the colours, but I need to sharpen those. Now, if you've got your colour swatches, then that's perfect. You can go straight to your colour swatches. But even if, I mean, I don't have a colour swatch, but even if I did have a colour swatch, I do recommend that you test them on the actual card that you're working on, because pigments take differently on different cards. So let's just sharpen those pencils a little bit. There we go. That one's a bit better than that one. I've just sharpened these, and then I can tell you the colours that we're using, or that I'm using even. Okay, and we're just enjoying our time. Oops. There we go. So I have raspberry PC1030, I have crimson red, and then I have black grape to give me the dark colour. So if I look at these, so let me just lightly add that and then lightly add that. That is the dark colour, and you can see from sort of your colours here. I'm not going to add this really dark one yet, so I'm going to start with the raspberry. So I'm going to add a little bit of the raspberry just to that area. So let's just do a couple and just add a little bit of the raspberry. Nothing spectacular. Then I'm going to go with the crimson red and come into the previous colour as well. Then I'm going to go back to the raspberry and just come in and just fill in the gaps a little bit more. And what I'm doing is I'm just testing the pencils, and if I'm not happy, I'll go over with paints. So then we go back to the crimson red, which is our second colour. Don't press on too hard. You press on too hard and you've got nowhere to go. So now I'm just going to come in with some of the black grape and just add a little bit of a darker edge with the black grape. Just a little bit of a darker edge with the black grape. And it doesn't matter if I'm playing in front of you or I'm playing and I'm sitting on my own. I do like to sort of experiment. So I'm just going to come in with the raspberry, which is the darker of the two when you look at the actual leads or whatever you want to colour them. And then we'll come in with the lighter colour, which is the crimson red. And just so we'll just let that sort of rest a little bit. We'll just come in a little bit more and just then let's start again with our darker colour. And you can hold, if you're frightened of pressing too hard, hold your fingers further up on your pencil. It stops you from pressing too hard, because the minute you come further down like this, it's like when we were at school, you tend to press a little bit harder. Whereas if you hold your pencil, I'm going to leave that little circular area there white. If you leave your fingers further up, it stops you from pressing on that pencil. Come back again. Now don't forget, you'll have some darker patches because you've got that VersaFine Clair. Spit it out. Ink on there. There we go. Then we'll come back in with the grape colour. Did I give you that colour? PC996 black grape. Just to give a little bit of a darker edge. And you can bring that in a little bit if you want it a little bit darker. You can bring that in. If you want it a little bit darker, just on the edge. Again, I'm not pressing too hard. Then I go to the next darkest colour, which is the raspberry 1030. And then we'll add another layer of that colour. And I'm not pressing too hard. And this is one of those demonstrations, let's go to the lightest colour now, where maybe you'll watch it when you're not doing anything else during the day, because it's going to be a bit of a longer process, because that's part of the enjoyment. So I'm going to go to the dark again, and I can add some more to this. We can do that afterwards. Just adding the dark, then the lighter, and I'm not pressing on too hard at all, just nicely scribbling is what I'm doing, and just moving back and forth between the darker colour and the lighter colour, and just filling in the gaps on my card, the white areas, till that pencil smooths out. But if I don't press too hard, it means I've got the possibility to come back and continue to add more layers. Then just add a little touch of the dark, of the grape, we'll just add a little bit of that grape. And again, I know I'm not pressing too hard, but if you find you're automatically pressing too hard, move those fingers further up on the pencil, because trust me, it really does stop you from pressing too hard. And you layer that pigment down softer. It stops you from pressing. Oops. We will then go to the light and just come in with the light. And the thing with the Inktense pencils is you can actually see it smoothing out before your eyes. But what I like doing is I like just giving it time to rest a little bit before I add a final layer. That's just the way I do it. So I'm going to add the darker colour. And look at that professional colouring knot. That's scribbling that I do, and I just add it in a circular motion. And you can see it's just sort of scribbled initially in that circular motion. And as you sort of fill in the gaps in the card, it starts to smooth out. But I just add light layers, which initially feels like you're doing nothing. But you're laying down that pigment in a very gentle way. Because if you go and add that pigment and you scrub your card, you scrub it so hard, it gets so shiny that you've got nowhere to go. You then can't lay down more of that pigment. So we'll come down and we'll add the grape. Now this is not meant to be perfectly round. It's meant to be like in nature. They're all sort of misshapen. There we go. So that was the grape. We then go back to the darker colour. And I must admit, when I first started colouring, I couldn't understand where I was going wrong and why I wasn't getting, you know, I don't colour perfectly, but why I wasn't getting a finish that I was happy with. I'm no colourist, but I wanted to get a finish that I was happy with. And it was because I was being impatient and I was laying down too much pigment too soon. So we'll then go to the next one. Add that darker colour. Then your lighter colour. And with the lighter colour, you go in to the dark colour. And I'm just leaving a sort of a little white area on each one. And each white area is not exactly the same. Some are bigger than others because that makes it look more natural as well. In my humble opinion anyway. So let's just add the darker colour. And again, I can see it before my eyes. Then come to the lighter colour. And the sort of the grape, the really dark colour, sort of really just defines, gives some definition, and really sort of helps with the whole thing. Just gives it that a little bit more depth. So go back to the darkest colour in your reds and pinky reds, and then add another layer of that ink pencil. Tracy can't get her words out. Then go back to the lighter colour and come into all the colours with the lightest colour. There we go. And now we're just giving each one of those time to rest a little bit. And I know some of you don't like long videos, so you can fast forward, because you don't need to see me colour all these, so you can fast forward. But those of you that like listening to my waffle, and we can pretend we're chatting together, which is what I do, then that's perfect. So where am I going to add my circle on this one? Let's add it there. Okay. Come in with the lighter colour. And can you see each of the white areas? They're not perfect. They're not a perfect circle or a perfect shape. Well, it doesn't look very natural if you've got it too perfect, does it? Again, let's go back to that darker colour. Now, if you prefer to use your water colours, don't forget the watercolours are translucent, so you will see more of these markings that we've done with the VersaFine Clair. If you use your paints, that will cover that up totally, no problem at all. Let's go for that grape colour. And what I feel that we're doing now is we're adding life, we're adding depth. And that's what I like about YouTube, because if I want to take my time, I can take my time. I don't have to rush and only show you half of a demo. So go back to this. Let's just blend that out. There we go. Then we'll go back to the lighter colour, go into the other colours with the lightest colour, just to blend that out a little bit. And it's coming to life now, just so that you can see that. Doesn't it come to life? Oh, I just love it. And always have a break if you need to. Sometimes it's good just to have that break. It not only gives the card time to rest, it sort of gives you time to re-look at the project. And that really helps. So sometimes we're in so much of a rush that we forget to just look at the project and see if it's progressing the way we want it to. And it's just important that we do that. So, and if we give it time to rest, we can add another layer of pencil, because we've not got in too much. Let's just add this now. Bear with me a second. There we go. So I was just looking to see if I wanted to add an even sort of darker colour to these, and I don't. So I'm going to keep that as it is. And what I can do is, when I look down through the camera, I can see where I'm going, and I just love it. And I appreciate having the creative time. So just make sure you look at the tops of your pencils, just to make sure that you're using the right one. So just lightly giving that circular motion. There we go. Just with that dark one, then the light. And initially it does look like you're scribbling. I am scribbling in a circular motion. Let's not beat about the bush. That's exactly what I'm doing. There we go. Then I'll come back again to the raspberry and just lightly add another layer of that colour. Do you know, and I love nothing nicer than being in my craft room, and I look out the window quite frequently, either at the birds or the weather, and it's just lovely. Just sort of being inside when it's all cold and wet outside. I love it. I do love this time of year though. I'm afraid I'm one of those odd people that summer isn't my favourite season. It's actually spring and autumn. I love the cooler days. Obviously, I do prefer the longer, lighter hours for summer, but I do love these cooler days. So I've added the darkest colour, then go back to the raspberry. So you've got the black grape, which is the darkest there, PC996. Then I go to my other dark colour, which is PC1030 raspberry, and then I blend everything with the crimson red 924. And then take that crimson red and just add the crimson red. And I think you'll find that you find your own way of doing things that makes you happy. And once it clicks and you find something that you're happy doing, oh, it's just wonderful. It's like, I know that I'm not really keen on die cutting constantly, but I know I love stamping, and I love stamping because I can mix it so much. It's just wonderful. And I can just add so many elements or pare it back. I just love it all. And I know I want some more leaves here. So let's take that dark colour again. It's funny, when you look at it in real life, the black grape really does add that depth to it. It really does give it some depth. So go back again. And just add that darker colour. So just remember, if you're using anything like watercolours, it'll be translucent, unless it's obviously an opaque paint. So you will see some of the markings. But I'm adding layers of this pigment, so you don't really see much of the markings. So let's go back to this lovely grape colour. Now, sort of purpley colours and blue colours really do sort of, they can add shadows and depth. So this grape really is adding much needed depth to each sort of seed pod. There we go. So go back then to the raspberry and you go into that grape colour with your raspberry. So go into the grape colour with your raspberry. And then come in with your crimson red and smooth out all the white areas on your card. There we go. Don't you think that's coming back? It's coming to life now. And I think this, for me, is the advantage of having a YouTube channel, because nobody's coming up to you and saying, you need to cut that demo short, you can just do whatever you want that makes you happy. And that's why I love doing the YouTube demos. The only problem with colouring is you absolutely lose yourself. But as I've always said many times, I am definitely a visual learner. Give me instructions and I'm hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. Can't follow instructions for toffee. I really can't. I am dreadful. But show me something visually. I enjoy it whilst I'm watching it, so that helps as well. And I pick up more hints and tips and I'm more inclined to give it a go because I can see the person doing it. There we go. And you will see the real professional artists, when they're using pencils, they go in even softer than I do initially. They don't go in very hard at all with their pencils. Especially if they're adding white details as well. You'll see them go in very, very gently. And I have to say this, I'm going to be using this grape quite a lot because it really does give much needed shadow and depth to that design. So I'll go back to the second colour and go into that grape. And just blend that. And then with our crimson, just blend it all. There we go. And then on to our last one. So we'll just add some of the, did I use the darkest colour there? I'm not using the darkest colour, am I? No, you're not. Didn't think I was. Do you like how I can tell straight away that I wasn't using the darkest colour? And at this stage, it's probably a good time to sharpen those pencils again if they're getting a little bit on the blunt side. Just sharpen them again. Come in with a second layer. And again, on that second layer, I'm not pressing too hard. blend that. And then we'll come in with our grape. The grape makes the difference. Really does make the difference. For me. It really sort of adds the much needed shadow that I would like. There we go. Let's go back to our second colour up and blend into the grape, just so that you blend out those harsh lines, and then come to the crimson and go into all the colours with the crimson, just to smooth everything out. Doesn't matter if it's not absolute perfection, but for me, I am super happy with that. Super happy. Absolutely love it. So what I can do now when I'm looking at this is I can take these little leaves now. Now I've got the colour. It's really starting to pop. So I'm going to add some leaves there. That's lovely. Where else was I thinking? Now using the first generation, don't forget. So let's add a little bit of leaf there. So using that first generation, sorry, so that it's on top of the ferns. Let's just add a little bit there. So you can use sort of little bits of your stamp as well. So let's move this out of the way. There we go. I just love the way those have turned out. Just think it looks gorgeous. And look how close that you can get them if you want them on top of each other. So if I wanted to, I could still place one on top of the other. Do we try that? So let's try it. If I make a mistake, what does it matter? So we'll never know, will we, unless we do it. So I've got some of the VersaFine Clair ink on there, and I've got all the stamping on here. So let's see what happens when we add another one on the top. So let me show you. Can you see? I've just added that on the top. So let's see, because this is my project, it doesn't matter if it's slightly ruined, but let's see what happens when we add. Always ask yourself, what if? So I'm going to go in with the darker, the raspberry colour, like we've done before, and just lay the colour down gently. No different than we've done before. Absolutely no different. So go in with the crimson red, which I want to keep calling cherry red, crimson red. Don't ask me why I want to call it that. So just go in. Let's leave a little circular area. And this time, let's come in a little bit sooner with the grape. Let's add that grape a little bit sooner. Now, what you have to remember is I've added colour here and here and added many layers, many. So obviously, it's only going to allow me to layer so much. So let's just go in with the blackberry. Not blackberry, black grape. Oh, good grief. So like I can't even remember. The black grape. So we're coming in with the black grape. And on this one, I'm just adding a little bit more of that black grape. Then we'll come to the second colour, which is the raspberry. And just add the raspberry. Then I'm going to come in with the colour I can never remember as I'm colouring because I want to call it something else. Crimson red. Let's just add that. And I'm still going to add more depth to that, but it shows that you can still add one on top of the other if you wish. So I've still not added my colour too much, so I can still come in and add an even darker layer of the, nobody can say it, black grape. I can even add a darker layer of the black grape. And come into your black grape with that one. And then use the crimson red. So what I've done with that one is I've just made that one a little bit darker. And I like the fact that you can just overlay some of them. And it just looks lovely. So then I'm going to overlay one here. What I'm trying to show you is sometimes if you ask yourself what if, sometimes you can break the rules. Sometimes it won't work, but it doesn't matter. You know, if it didn't work, I could just cut round it. Doesn't matter. You know, don't worry about it too much. So let's have that one there. And let's have one down here. So using that strawberry again, let's have one down here. So then we've got some that are going to be slightly darker in colour. So we'll go with our first colour. And again, just gently adding that colour. So always ask yourself, what would happen if I did? This is the lighter colour. And then I come in a bit sooner with the black grape. So I'm just going to make these ones a little bit darker. Just a little bit darker than the other ones. So go back to the raspberry and come into that black grape. just so that you can blend that. And then come into the, what did I say it was? Crimson red. I cannot get cherry red out of my head. Don't ask me why, because I haven't used cherry red, but I cannot get that out of my head. So then I'm going to come back to the grape. Perhaps it's because this one's called grape something and I want to call them fruit. Who knows? We will never know what goes on in Tracy's head most of the time, as you well know. Let's just... So then come back to the raspberry. And just add the raspberry. And that crimson red, it sort of really adds that vibrancy to the design. What also helps is having that little touch of white as well. So you can see that has got more darkness. So let's add, we'll give this time to rest. So we're going to add the darkness to this one. So that's the raspberry. Yes, oh, I got that right. Then we've got the crimson red that Tracy can't get right. Then I'm going to come to the black grape. And the black grape is where you can just add a little bit more depth. Just make it a little bit darker. And obviously, I've done this off the cuff, so you can add these before you add your stamping. But I'm going off the cuff, and sometimes when you do things off the cuff, you'll do them in a different order than maybe you would do if you'd planned them. But this is our playtime together. Let's go to our darker colour again. And just add the dark colour. Then our crimson red. And with your crimson red, come into all the colours. Now obviously you've laid this colour down quite strongly, so you need to remember that. It's only going to allow you to layer so much. So you will know, because you can plan your project now, whereas my project was not planned. I'm just going with the flow. So fixing things as I go along. But I want you to ask yourself, what if, every now and then? Because asking yourself what if is how you learn new things. And everything I've learned, trust me, I've learned from many, many, many mistakes. I can't say that enough. And because I have laid so lightly, I could go in with another layer of colour. But I just love it. Just love the whole thing. I love the way it looks. So really you went away from, or I did, the circular shape, and I've just gone with a free form because I prefer that, just more natural. Right. But we could quite easily do a little wreath just with the leaf, which I might do another time. Absolutely, definitely. Right, so what I can do then is you can either use your light bulbs that you can dangle from here. So you could dangle many of the little light bulbs. If I just take this little light bulb, so you could dangle the light bulbs from here. There's so many things that you could dangle from there. But I'm going to use the little abutilon. So TE7, I'm going to use the little abutilon on there. I don't think we need to get any more A7 acrylic blocks out, do you? Because it's just getting mad. The only thing is, I'm like, where is my little fern stamp? Let's just place this back on TE3. Make sure your hands are clean, because half the time mine aren't. I'm then going to use Morning Mist, VersaFine Clair, and I'm going to add a couple of these. So it's great because you've got so much foliage on there, you can just join it up to any bits of foliage that you've got. So I can have one down here, a little bit further down, like so. Oh, and then I'll just drop it on the ink pad. And it's quite easy because you can just sort of use your pencil just to add, so that it's just dangling from them. And then I'm just going to use my pencil just to add a touch of shading to the top, just lightly first. And I'm going to hold this up once I have finished. I'm just using a HB pencil, which you can smudge, as you saw me in my snippet video. Just add a little bit more darkness there. And then I'm going to use the grape. I'm going to come around just with the grape first. Just onto, and I'm just adding this very lightly, super lightly. And to be honest, the pencils need sharpening now, which I will do just before I do sort of the final touches. So then I'm going to go to the raspberry, and we're just going to add a little bit of the raspberry. Bit of the raspberry to that, and I'm adding the colour so lightly you can't actually see any change in the colours because it's so light. I need to build that up, but I just need to build that up really slowly. And what I need to do is just sharpen those pencils. Just so that I've got a nice point on them. Just makes it a little bit easier. we go. And I'm just enjoying myself, and I can tell because the time's gone so quickly. So what I'm going to do now is lightly come in, and because I've got that point on my pencil, I can just come in and just add that little touch of darkness. And the floral doesn't need much colour, but it does come to life once it's coloured. Let's add a little bit more. Definitely far easier with that sharper pencil. There we go. Then I'm going to come to the raspberry and just, now even though my hands are further down on that pencil, I am not pressing too hard. I'm going into the grape colour, but I'm not pressing really hard. Not at all. And then I'm going to use the crimson red. I'm not trying to think of the other name because I shall just get that in my head again. So the crimson red. I'm just leaving a little touch of the white. Let's have a little touch here. And then I'm going to just use my HB pencil just to add a little more grey just to the top. I could spend ages, honestly I could spend ages doing this. So then I'm just going to add, she says, hope that my pen works. So just add, that's better, touches of white. Just to my botanical flower. Now you have to remember that I've used sort of waxy pencils, so I should really sort of give this time to just relax those stretched sort of fibres of the card. I'm just going to sort of reiterate the white areas by sort of going around the shape. And I love that each sort of touch of white is a little bit of a different shape because it just makes it look more natural, I feel. We're just going to add, oh, I'll just chuck the lid off there. We'll add some splatters, and I'm going to aim those splatters just onto the lovely pops of red, just so that you can see this. It works really nicely on the pops of red. And then we'll take the butylon again, and on there is, I'm sure it's, I've got nodding flowers. So let's have, this could even be a Christmas card quite easily. There's so many things you could use. You could use the poinsettia, you You could use anything you wanted to. So I need another scrap of card. Let's add nodding flowers. And now I want this in black ink, so it's in the foreground. So let's add that against a straight-ish edge. Just helps us to get our wording straight. And then let's cut that card off. I do love doing a project start to finish. Just makes me happy. So I can have it here, or do I want it there? I'm going to have it there. We'll add a little bit of shading as well. So just add this here. I love being creative. And that needs sharpening, really. I mean, I'm trying to do an edge across that sentiment. It actually needs sharpening. Let's move those scissors out of the way. This little brush is never off my desk now. Let's make sure that we've got clean water. And let's add, now the inks I've used are permanent, so those aren't going to move. Absolutely no way or shape or form. They won't move at all. Now you can add a little bit of shading. Test one and see what you think. I think yes. So let's just add a little bit. So I'm just going to go round. Spot the person that's enjoying herself too much. I've got a little bit of kitchen roll just on the side. Should I add too much water? Just blend that out. And it does look nice when it's sort of quite dark. And again, I can look in the camera and that just looks lovely with a little bit of a shadow. So we'll just add sometimes I've literally got no water on the brush, which does absolutely nothing. There we go. So I'm just adding my Inktense pencil, which is called, I thought it was called China ink. It's Chinese ink. 2010, I think it is. So just adding a little bit of a shadow. Just here and there. Just to, it makes things pop a little bit more, just a little bit. It really does work. It just works just to give even more depth to that design. Plus, I love a good faff. There's hardly any water on that. a bit of dimension there and here. Just blend that out a little bit more. I'm enjoying myself too much. Right, now if we add this to a black mat, which I'm sure I've got, so we can add this to a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 black mat, and you can see how things change, how I've gone from a circle to a free form to just totally different. I'm going to sneeze like I normally do. Excuse me. I normally sneeze more than once, especially for the videos. Let's add that there. Just get one side correct first. And apart from the wording, it is completely flat. But of course, I'm going to add a bird. I'm then going to add that to a 5 by 7 inch card blank. So let's add that to a 5 by 7 card blank. There we go. Just works so beautifully. I absolutely love it. Oh, just love it, love it, love it. Right, let's grab a little bird. So I'm going to use the little wren again from TE30. And I'm going to stamp the little wren in black. There we go. No, that is great, Tracy. What did I say about watching your ink pads? Because it's so easy to pick up the wrong thing. Make sure that's not belonging to my stamps. I'm just going to cut out the little bird. It's entirely up to you if you want a little white border or not. I should have really cut the feet out first. It would have made it so much easier, because then you've got the whole of the bird in the card and it just gives it stability whilst you are cutting out. But hey ho, we do these things, don't we? Because you want some of the bird in the card, really. When you're cutting the feet out, it's far more simplified that way, in my view. There we go. And by having these little pointed scissors, which are my Pergamano scissors, I've had them years, but it really works. So we'll bring in our little wren. You can either add it to the top. Have a look. I know you don't look through the camera, but I'm going to have the little bird just sitting here looking at the flowers. Let's just add that. Maybe a little bit, a touch of adhesive just on there. And we'll just add this to our project. And then finally, I don't need to ground him because he's sitting on there. Just make sure the white is showing. Some little touches there. You don't need much. There we go. And that is our detailed demonstration finished, just so you can see that. and it's just the bird and the word that are cut out. The rest isn't. But it just gives you another idea for your stamps. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.